Lisa Johnson stood in front of her bedroom mirror, carefully adjusting the gold buttons on her marine dress blue uniform. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, though they trembled slightly. After 15 years of service to her country, she knew every detail of the uniform code by heart. The gleaming medals and ribbons on her chest told the story of her deployments, her sacrifices, and her dedication. But today, they meant something different. Today, they were a symbol of pride she wanted to share with her son. Kevin was graduating high school today. Lisa had missed so many moments in his life. Birthdays, school plays, sports games, all while serving overseas. The thought made her throat tighten as she smoothed down the front of her jacket one last time. She had promised herself years ago that no matter what, she would be present for this milestone. Just 2 days ago, Lisa had been halfway around the world, finishing a 6-month deployment in the Middle East. Her commanding officer had moved mountains to get her home in time. Understanding the importance of this day, she had barely adjusted to the time difference, operating on a mixture of excitement and coffee, determined to be fully present for Kevin's big moment. "You look perfect, Mom," Kevin said from the doorway of her bedroom. At 18, he was already taller than her by several inches, his face a perfect blend of her features and his father's. Lisa turned and smiled at her son. "And you look very handsome in that suit. Your father got it for you?" Kevin nodded. "Dad said you'd want pictures of me looking respectable for once." He grinned, reminding her of the little boy who used to hide her boots when deployment time came, hoping it would make her stay. Though Lisa and Greg had divorced when Kevin was 10, they had managed to build a respectful co-parenting relationship over the years. Greg had been the constant in Kevin's life, the one who never missed a parent-teacher conference or a doctor's appointment. Lisa felt a familiar pang of guilt, quickly followed by gratitude for her ex-husband's steadiness. "We should get going," Lisa said, grabbing her car keys. "I want to get there early. Good seats." The drive to Westridge High School was filled with Kevin's excited chatter about college plans and summer jobs. Lisa soaked in every word, storing them away like treasures to revisit during lonely nights on base. The school parking lot was already filling up when they arrived, families streaming toward the auditorium in their Sunday best, carrying flower bouquets and balloon arrangements. "Dad said he'd save us seats near the front," Kevin said as they walked through the main entrance. "I have to go line up with my class now." Lisa hugged her son tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Kevin. So proud." "Thanks, Mom." He hugged her back, then pulled away with a slightly embarrassed smile. "Try not to cry during the ceremony, okay? I'll never live it down." "No promises," Lisa laughed, watching as he jogged off to join his classmates. She made her way into the auditorium, scanning the rows of seats for Greg. The space was already buzzing with excitement, parents and grandparents finding their places, younger siblings squirming in formal clothes. Lisa noticed a few people doing double takes as she walked past in her uniform, but she was used to that. The marine dress blues tended to draw attention. She spotted Greg waving from the third row and headed in his direction. As she moved through the crowd, she became aware of a different kind of attention. A security guard near the entrance was watching her with unusual intensity. He spoke into his radio while keeping his eyes fixed on her. Lisa felt a small knot form in her stomach but pushed the feeling aside. Today was about Kevin. "You made it," Greg said as she reached him, standing, to give her an awkward half-hug. "Flight okay?" "Long," Lisa replied, settling into the seat he had saved. "But worth it. Thanks for holding a spot." Greg nodded. "No problem. Kevin's been talking about nothing else since you told him you'd be home in time. The uniform was a nice touch. I wanted him to know I'm proud to be his mom," Lisa said simply. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching as the auditorium filled. Lisa noticed the security guard who had been watching her earlier was now talking to another guard, both of them glancing in her direction. The knot in her stomach tightened. "Something wrong?" Greg asked, following her gaze. "Probably nothing," Lisa said, though she wasn't convinced. A woman in the row behind them leaned forward. "Excuse me, are you really in the Marines or is that some kind of costume?" Lisa turned, surprised by the question. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. The woman's expression was skeptical. At the last graduation, someone came dressed as a doctor and caused a scene. The school's been more careful since then. I assure you, ma'am, these are real dress blues, and these are real service medals. Lisa replied politely but firmly. The woman leaned back without another word, but Lisa could hear her whispering to the man beside her. More people were stealing glances at her now, and Lisa felt her face grow warm. She straightened her back, a reflex from years of standing at attention. Greg touched her arm lightly. Ignore them. People are idiots. Lisa nodded, trying to focus. On the stage where chairs were being arranged for the ceremony, the principal, Diane Morris, was speaking with some of the teachers, occasionally looking out at the filling auditorium. The graduation was scheduled to start in 20 minutes. The security guard who had been watching Lisa was now making his way down the aisle toward her, another guard following close behind. Their expressions were serious, purposeful. Lisa felt her heart rate increase. Ma'am, I need to speak with you outside, the guard said when he reached her row. His name tag read, Frank Peters. Lisa looked up at him, confused. Is something wrong? We've received a complaint about someone in military dress causing a disturbance. I need you to come with me now. His voice was loud enough that several nearby parents turned to watch. There must be some mistake, Lisa said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. I just got here. I'm sitting quietly waiting for my son's graduation. Frank Peters' expression hardened. Ma'am, we take security very seriously at this school. Either you come with us voluntarily, or we'll have to escort you out. Greg stood up. This is ridiculous. She's a Marine here to see her son graduate. Sir, please stay out of this, the second guard said. Lisa noticed that in the rows behind them, 5 men sitting together had become very attentive to the situation. They were all well-built, with short haircuts and alert eyes. Though they wore civilian clothes, something about their posture screamed military. I'm not leaving my son's graduation, Lisa stated, meeting Frank's gaze. I just returned from deployment to be here. Whatever complaint you received is incorrect. Frank signaled to his colleague. Then you leave us no choice. As the guards moved to take Lisa by the arms, she felt a surge of emotions, embarrassment, anger, and a deep sadness that Kevin might look out from the graduation line to see his mother being escorted out. The day she had traveled halfway around the world for was falling apart around her. But before the guards could touch her, a clear, authoritative voice cut through the murmurs of the crowd. That's enough. Lisa turned to see one of the 5 men, standing up, the others rising beside him in perfect unison. The way they moved, the way they positioned themselves, Lisa recognized fellow service members when she saw them. And judging by their bearing and the look in their eyes, these weren't just any military men. The spotlight that had been on Lisa suddenly shifted, and she felt the first stirring of hope that maybe, just maybe, this special day could be saved after all. The man who had spoken first moved forward with purpose. He was tall with broad shoulders, his movements smooth and controlled. Though he wore a simple dark blue suit, there was nothing civilian about the way he carried himself. 4 other men moved with him, spreading out slightly as if by silent agreement. I said that's enough, the man repeated, his voice calm but leaving no room for argument. What seems to be the problem here? Frank Peters turned to face the newcomer, clearly annoyed by the interruption. This is a security matter, sir. Please return to your seat. The tall man didn't budge. My name is Alan Rivera, he said, his eyes never leaving Frank's face. And I'd like to understand why you're trying to remove an active duty Marine from her son's graduation ceremony. Lisa noticed a small pin on Alan's lapel that caught the light. The unmistakable shape of a trident. Her breath caught in her throat. Navy SEALs. These men were Navy SEALs. Another of the 5 men stepped forward, positioning himself beside Lisa. He was shorter than Alan, but just as solid, with salt and pepper hair cut close to his scalp. Staff Sergeant, he said, nodding at her rank insignia, with respect. I'm Doug Wright. Are you really being asked to leave your son's graduation? Yes, Lisa managed, finding her voice. They say someone complained, but I've done nothing wrong. The 3rd man moved up on Lisa's other side. I'm Charlie Bennett, he said, then addressed Frank directly. "On what grounds are you removing this Marine?" Frank's colleague shifted uncomfortably, but Frank stood his ground. "We received reports of a woman in costume creating a disruption." "Costume?" Charlie's eyebrow shot up. "That's a United States Marine Corps dress uniform with combat decorations. Are you suggesting those are fake?" The fourth man, a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes who introduced himself as Rick Martinez, had somehow positioned himself just behind the security guards. The fifth, Sam Mitchell, stood slightly apart, his eyes constantly scanning the growing crowd of onlookers. Greg, who had been watching the situation unfold with increasing relief, spoke up. "This is my ex-wife, Staff Sergeant Lisa Johnson. She just returned from deployment to see our son graduate. There's been no disruption." Frank Peters looked increasingly uncomfortable as he glanced between the 5 men who had now effectively surrounded him and his colleague. The second security guard leaned in and whispered something in Frank's ear. "Look," Frank said, his tone slightly less confident. "We're just following protocol. Someone reported a person in military attire who didn't belong here." Alan's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped slightly. "And you didn't bother to verify if she was actually military, or if she had a legitimate reason to be here?" A woman seated nearby stood up. "I might be responsible for this misunderstanding," she admitted. "I asked if she was really in the Marines or if it was a costume. We had an incident at a previous event with someone pretending to be a doctor." Sam Mitchell turned to her. "Ma'am, did Staff Sergeant Johnson cause any disruption or do anything concerning after you asked your question?" The woman shook her head. "No," she was polite. "So there was no actual complaint about a disruption," Charlie said, turning back to Frank. "Just an assumption based on what? The fact that she's in uniform? Or perhaps something else?" The implication hung in the air. Lisa felt a flush of both anger and gratitude. Anger at what Charlie was suggesting might be the real reason for her treatment, and gratitude that these men had stepped in. By now, other parents were watching the confrontation. Some had pulled out phones recording what was happening. Principal Morris noticed the commotion and made her way down the aisle toward them. "What's going on here?" she asked, looking between the security guards and the group now surrounding Lisa. Before Frank could speak, Alan answered. "Your security team is attempting to remove Staff Sergeant Johnson from her son's graduation. She's just returned from deployment to be here today." Principal Morris looked at Lisa, taking in the uniform, the medals, and then the security guards who were now looking less certain of themselves. "Frank, why is this happening?" the principal asked. "There was a report," Frank began. "A misunderstanding," Sam Mitchell cut in. "Someone questioned whether the staff sergeant's uniform was real. Instead of simply verifying her identity or asking if she was a parent, your security team jumped straight to removal." The principal's face showed her dismay. "Staff Sergeant Johnson, I sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding. Of course you're welcome at your son's graduation." Lisa nodded, the knot in her stomach finally beginning to loosen. "Thank you. I just want to see my son graduate." "And you will," Principal Morris assured her. She turned to Frank and his colleague. "We'll discuss this later. For now, please return to your posts." The security guards retreated, Frank mumbling something about following protocols as they walked away. As they left, Lisa turned to the 5 SEALs who had come to her defense. "Thank you," she said simply, military brevity conveying more than a longer speech could. Alan smiled slightly. "No thanks needed. We take care of our own." "How did you know to step in?" Greg asked the men. Doug Wright glanced at his companions before answering. "We were watching. Saw the security guard eyeing the staff sergeant from the moment she walked in. When they approached, it was clear something wasn't right." "We all have kids graduating today," Rick Martinez explained. "We're sitting together because our kids all became friends through the military family support group. My son Bobby wants to join the Marines," Sam added with a small smile in Lisa's direction. "Much to my dismay. Navy's better." This brought a laugh from Lisa, breaking the last of the tension. The 5 men introduced themselves properly to Lisa and Greg. All Navy SEALs, though most were now retired from active duty. They had bonded over the years through their children's friendship and their shared experiences. "Would you like to sit with us?" Alan offered. "We have plenty of room in our row." Greg looked at Lisa, who nodded. "That would be nice, thank you." As they moved to the SEALs row, Lisa felt eyes following her, but the stares felt different now. The whispers had changed from suspicion to something else, perhaps respect or embarrassment at what had nearly happened. They settled into their seats just as the music began, signaling the start of the ceremony. The graduates would be filing in soon. Lisa took a deep breath, centering herself. She hadn't cried during combat situations, during grueling training, or during difficult goodbyes. But seeing Kevin walk across that stage might be the thing that finally broke that streak. "You okay?" Charlie asked quietly from beside her. Lisa nodded. "Better now. I just don't want this to overshadow Kevin's day." "It won't," Charlie assured her. "But I think your son will be proud when he hears what happened. Shows the kind of example you've set for him." The doors at the back of the auditorium opened, and the graduates began to file in, dressed in blue caps and gowns. Lisa straightened in her seat, eyes searching for Kevin among the sea of identical outfits. And then she saw him, her son, walking tall, his face solemn with the importance of the moment. Lisa felt her chest swell with pride. Everything she had sacrificed, every moment she had missed, it had all been worth it to raise this young man who was now stepping into adulthood. As if sensing her gaze, Kevin looked toward where he expected his parents to be sitting. His eyes widened slightly when he saw his mother now surrounded by the 5 SEALs, his father beside her. Lisa gave him a small wave and a smile that contained all her love and pride. Kevin smiled back, and in that moment, Lisa knew that no security, guard, no misunderstanding, nothing could diminish the joy of this day. She was here, witnessing her son's milestone, supported by unexpected allies who understood the meaning of service and respect. The ceremony was about to begin. The graduation ceremony began with Principal Morris walking to the podium. The audience fell silent as she adjusted the microphone. Lisa sat between Greg and Charlie, feeling a strange sense of calm after the storm that had nearly ruined the day. "Welcome, families and friends, to the Westridge High School graduation ceremony," Principal Morris began. "Today we celebrate not just academic achievement, but the journey these young people have taken to reach this milestone." As the principal continued her speech, Lisa felt Charlie lean slightly toward her. "First row, third from the left," he whispered. "That's my daughter, Olivia." Lisa smiled, looking at the girl Charlie had pointed out. "She looks proud. You must be too." Charlie nodded. 4 years of high school drama, and now she's heading to college. Time flies. On Lisa's other side, Greg was scanning the rows of graduates.
"Kevin is in the second section near the middle," he said quietly. The principal's voice brought their attention back to the stage. "Before we begin presenting diplomas, I'd like to acknowledge some special guests with us today. We are honored
to have several military parents in our audience, including active duty service members who have made great sacrifices to be here." Lisa felt eyes turning toward her, and she sat up straighter, her training kicking in automatically. "In particular," Principal Morris continued, "I'd like to recognize Staff Sergeant Lisa Johnson of the United States Marine Corps, who has just returned from deployment to see her son Kevin graduate today." A wave of applause spread through the auditorium. Lisa felt her face grow warm, not used to being the center of attention in this way. She gave a small nod of acknowledgement as the applause continued. "We are grateful for your service, Staff Sergeant," the principal said when the applause died down. "And we are honored to have you with us." The ceremony proceeded with the presentation of awards and special recognitions. Throughout it all, Lisa kept her eyes on Kevin, watching his reactions, storing away these moments to remember during future deployments. Alan leaned forward from his seat behind Lisa. "The principal certainly changed her tune," he said quietly. Sam, who was sitting next to Alan, chuckled. "Amazing how quickly attitudes adjust when people realize they've made a mistake." Doug, sitting on Sam's other side, shook his head. "At least she's making it right," Some wouldn't. The first rows of graduates began to walk across the stage to receive their diplomas. Lisa felt her heart rate increase as Kevin's row stood up and lined up along the side of the stage. Soon it would be his turn. "Johnson, Kevin," the announcer called. Lisa watched as her son walked confidently across the stage. Principal Morris shook his hand and gave him his diploma. As Kevin turned toward the audience, his eyes found Lisa. He gave her a small salute, a gesture they had shared since he was a little boy. Lisa returned the salute, feeling tears well up, despite her promise to Kevin not to cry. Next to her, Greg was recording the moment on his phone, his own eyes suspiciously bright. As the ceremony continued, Rick leaned forward from his seat behind Lisa. "Your son seems like a fine young man. Do you mind if I ask what his plans are after graduation?" "He's going to State University in the fall," Lisa replied. "Engineering program." Rick nodded approvingly. "Smart choice. My son is going there too, for computer science." "Maybe they'll run into each other," Lisa said. The ceremony concluded with the traditional turning of the tassels and tossing of caps. The graduates cheered, their voices filling the auditorium with joy and relief. Parents stood, applauding, many wiping away tears. As the graduates filed out, followed by their families, Lisa and her new companions remained seated, waiting for the crowd to thin. Frank Peters, the security guard who had tried to remove Lisa earlier, was standing near the exit, carefully avoiding eye contact with their group. "I should probably go find Kevin," Lisa said, standing up. Alan nodded. "We'll wait for our kids too. Maybe we can all meet up after the ceremony." "I'd like that," Lisa said. "And thank you all again." Lisa and Greg made their way out of the auditorium and into the sunny courtyard where graduates and families were gathering for photos. They spotted Kevin standing with a group of his friends, his blue graduation gown open to reveal the dress shirt and tie beneath. "Mom, Dad," Kevin called when he saw them, waving them over. Lisa hugged her son tightly, all the emotions of the day catching up with her at once. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "Thanks, Mom," Kevin said, hugging her back just as tightly. "I'm glad you made it home in time." Greg took several photos of Lisa and Kevin together, then a passerby took a picture of all three of them. Kevin's friends drifted away to find their own families, leaving the three of them alone for a moment. "So," Kevin said, looking at his mother curiously, "are you going to tell me what happened before the ceremony?" Caitlin's mom texted her saying something went down with the security guards and some Navy guys. Lisa and Greg exchanged glances. "It was just a misunderstanding," Lisa began, not wanting to dampen the celebration. "Mom," Kevin said, his expression serious beyond his years. "What happened?" Greg put his hand on Kevin's shoulder. "One of the security guards tried to make your mom leave, said someone complained about her uniform." Kevin's face darkened. "What? Why would they?" "It's okay," Lisa assured him. "Some people who turned out to be Navy SEALs stepped in. Everything got sorted out." "Not okay," Kevin said firmly. "They tried to kick you out of my graduation because you're in uniform? Or was it?" He trailed off, but Lisa knew what he was thinking. "It doesn't matter now," Lisa said. "What matters is that I was here to see you graduate, and I got to meet some pretty impressive people in the process." As if on cue, Alan and the other SEALs appeared nearby, each with their own graduating son or daughter. Alan caught Lisa's eye and guided his group over. "Staff Sergeant Johnson," Alan said with a smile. "Is this the graduate?" Lisa nodded proudly. "This is my son, Kevin. Kevin, this is Mr. Rivera and his friends. They're the ones who helped sort things out earlier." Kevin straightened up slightly, instinctively responding to the military bearing of the men before him. "Thank you, sir, for helping my mom." Alan shook Kevin's hand. "No need for thanks. Your mother deserves respect for her service. You must be very proud of her." "I am," Kevin said without hesitation. "She's the reason I work so hard. I wanted to make her proud, the way she makes me proud." Lisa felt her throat tighten at her son's words. The sacrifices of military service had often left her wondering if she was doing right by Kevin. His words were a balm to that old wound. Sam stepped forward with his son. This is Bobby. He's the one who wants to join the Marines. Bobby, a tall young man with his father's steady gaze, nodded at Lisa. Staff Sergeant, it's an honor to meet you. Likewise, Lisa said. So you're thinking of the Marines? Yes, ma'am, Bobby replied. Dad's been trying to talk me into the Navy, but my mind's made up. Sam sighed dramatically. Where did I go wrong? Everyone laughed. The tension of the earlier confrontation completely dissipated now. The graduates began comparing notes on college plans while the parents talked about the ceremony. We're heading to Riverside Grill for a celebration lunch, Alan said to Lisa and Greg. There's plenty of room if you'd like to join us. Lisa looked at Greg, who nodded. That sounds wonderful, she said, as they walked toward the parking lot. Together, Lisa felt a sense of belonging she hadn't expected to find today. Her military life and her home life had always felt like separate worlds, but today, they had merged in an unexpected way. Kevin fell into step beside her. So are these guys really SEALs? He asked quietly. Lisa nodded. Yes, they are. Kevin looked impressed. Cool. Maybe you can tell me the whole story over lunch. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But today is about celebrating you, not dealing with other people's ignorance. Kevin smiled at his mother. Having you here is all the celebration I need. Mom, the rest is just extra. The Riverside Grill was busy with graduation celebrations. Families filled the tables, proud parents and excited graduates creating a cheerful buzz throughout the restaurant. The hostess led Lisa, Kevin, Greg, and their new friends to a large table in the back corner. I called ahead and asked for a quiet spot, Alan explained as they settled into their seats. Figured we could all use some peace after the excitement earlier. The waitress brought menus and took their drink orders. The 5 SEALs and their families blended easily with Lisa's small group. Conversation flowed naturally as they studied the menus. So, Kevin said once they had ordered their food, is someone going to tell me exactly what happened before the ceremony? The adults exchanged glances. Lisa had hoped to avoid dwelling on the unpleasant incident, but she knew her son deserved to know the truth. Well, she began carefully, when I arrived at the auditorium, one of the security guards seemed concerned about my uniform. Frank Peters, Doug added, his tone making it clear what he thought of the man. Lisa nodded. He and another guard approached me before the ceremony started. They said someone had complained about a person in military dress causing a disruption. But you weren't causing any disruption, Kevin said, his brow furrowing. You were just sitting there. Exactly, Greg confirmed. Your mom was sitting quietly beside me when they came over. Charlie leaned forward. It seemed like they made some assumptions without checking the facts first. Kevin looked around the table, his young face serious. Was it because... He trailed off, not finishing the thought, but his meaning was clear to everyone. Sam sighed. Unfortunately, son, sometimes people see a uniform on a black woman and make assumptions. They don't stop to think that she earned every ribbon and medal on that uniform through hard work and sacrifice. It happens more often than it should, Lisa admitted, meeting her son's eyes directly. But what matters is how we respond to it. Alan nodded. And how others respond too. Sometimes people need to take a stand. Kevin looked at the 5 men with new understanding. That's what you did? You took a stand for my mom? We did what any service member would do, Rick said simply. We looked out for one of our own. Bobby, Sam's son, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Dad always says the bond between military people is something civilians don't always understand. It's true, Lisa agreed. When you serve alongside someone, when you depend on each other in difficult situations, it creates a connection that's hard to explain. But you hadn't even met before today, Kevin pointed out. Doug smiled. Didn't need to. Your mom's uniform told us what we needed to know about her character and her service. The food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. As they began to eat, Olivia, Charlie's daughter, turned to Kevin. So you're going to state for engineering? That's cool. I'll be there too, studying biology. Kevin brightened, the heavy discussion giving way to more typical graduation day talk. Pre-med? Olivia nodded. That's the plan. My dad wants me to join the Navy after medical school, but I'm keeping my options open. Charlie laughed. Can't blame a father for trying. The conversation shifted to college plans and future hopes. The graduates talked excitedly while the parents shared knowing looks, aware of how quickly this next phase of life would pass. Halfway through the meal, Lisa noticed Frank Peters and his fellow security guard enter the restaurant with what appeared to be their families. Frank spotted their large table almost immediately, his face falling when he recognized Lisa and the SEALs. Well, this is awkward, Rick murmured, having seen them too. Frank seemed to consider leaving, but the restaurant was packed with graduation parties, and there were few options. The hostess led his group to a table not far from theirs. Lisa could feel Frank's discomfort from across the room. He kept his back to their table, his shoulders tense. Should we say something? Greg asked quietly. Lisa shook her head. Let him enjoy his family celebration. Today isn't about settling scores. Alan nodded approvingly. Gracious as well as brave. The Marines trained you well, Staff Sergeant. Mom was like that before the Marines, Kevin said with quiet pride. She always taught me to be the bigger person, even when it's hard. The meal continued pleasantly. Lisa learned that Alan had served for 22 years before retiring to work as a security consultant. Doug was still on active duty, while Charlie had become a high school coach after leaving the service. Rick worked for a defense contractor, and Sam ran a program helping veterans find civilian jobs. As they finished their desserts, Lisa noticed Frank approaching their table. His steps were hesitant, his expression uncomfortable but determined. Excuse me, he said when he reached them. Staff Sergeant Johnson, I owe you an apology. The table fell silent. Lisa looked up at the security guard, seeing the genuine regret on his face. I made assumptions today that were unfair and unprofessional, Frank continued. I should have verified the facts before acting. I'm sorry for almost ruining your son's graduation. Lisa nodded, acknowledging his words. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Peters. Apology accepted. Frank seemed surprised by her easy forgiveness. The principal has asked for a meeting on Monday to review our security protocols. I think some changes are needed. That sounds like a good idea, Lisa said. Frank nodded awkwardly. Congratulations to your son, and thank you for your service. He glanced at the SEALs. All of you. After Frank returned to his table, Bobby let out a low whistle. That took guts. It did, Sam agreed. Shows he's a man who can admit when he's wrong. That's worth something. The bill came, and despite Lisa's protests, Alan insisted on covering her family's portion. Consider it a graduation gift for Kevin, he said firmly. As they prepared to leave, the graduates exchanged phone numbers and social media information, already making plans to meet up before heading to college in the fall. The parents exchanged contact details too, with promises to stay in touch. Outside in the parking lot, the group lingered, reluctant to end the unexpected friendship that had formed from such unlikely circumstances. We have a beach bonfire planned for next weekend, Charlie said. End of high school celebration for the kids. You three should join us. We'd like that, Lisa said, looking at Kevin and Greg, who both nodded. Alan shook Lisa's hand. It's been an honor, Staff Sergeant. How long are you home for? 3 weeks, Lisa replied. Then back to base for 6 months before my next deployment. Make the most of it, Rick advised. These moments go by fast. One by one, the families said their goodbyes and headed to their cars. Finally, only Lisa, Greg, and Kevin remained. That was not how I expected this day to go, Greg said with a small laugh. Me neither, Lisa admitted. But I'm glad it turned out this way. Kevin looked at his mother. Those guys were pretty cool, the way they stood up for you. They were, Lisa agreed. And someday, you might be in a position to stand up for someone too. Remember how it feels to have allies when you need them. Kevin nodded solemnly. I will, Mom. As they walked to their separate cars, Kevin between his parents, Lisa felt a deep sense of contentment. The day had begun with tension and nearly turned into a disaster, but instead had become something meaningful and important, not just for her but for Kevin too. "See you at home?" Greg asked as they reached his car. Lisa nodded. "I'll follow you." Kevin hugged his mother once more before getting into his father's car. "Love you, Mom. I'm really glad you made it home. For today." "Me too, sweetheart," Lisa said, holding him tight. "More than you know." As she watched them drive away, Lisa thought about the unlikely events of the day. A potential humiliation had been transformed by the simple act of 5 strangers deciding to take a stand. Small actions, big impacts. It was a lesson worth remembering. 1 week after the graduation, Lisa sat on the beach watching Kevin and his new friends gather wood for the bonfire. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The gentle sound of waves mixed with the laughter of the teenagers as they worked together. "Penny, for your thoughts," Charlie said, dropping into the beach chair next to Lisa. Lisa smiled. "Just enjoying the moment. It's not often I get to see Kevin having this much fun." "They've really hit it off," Charlie observed as Olivia said something that made Kevin laugh. "Military kids tend to understand each other in a way others don't." Lisa nodded. Growing up with a parent in the service created a unique set of experiences. The frequent moves, the long absences, the worry during deployments. It shaped children in ways both challenging and positive. The other SEALs and their families were setting up a picnic area nearby. Alan and his wife Jane were arranging food on a folding table. Doug was helping Sam set up a portable speaker system. Rick was unfolding more chairs with help from his daughter Mia. Greg arrived carrying a cooler. "Sorry I'm late. Brought drinks and ice." "Perfect timing," Alan called. "We're just getting started." The week since graduation had been busy, but good. Lisa had spent every possible moment with Kevin, making up for lost time. They had gone fishing, seen a movie, and simply talked for hours, catching up on all the things that couldn't be shared in brief video calls during her deployment. Kevin had also spent time texting with his new friends, especially Bobby and Olivia. The 3 of them were all heading to State University in the fall and had already made plans to meet up during freshman orientation. "Fire's ready for lighting," Bobby announced as the teenagers finished arranging the wood. Sam walked over with a lighter. "Step back, everyone. Fire safety officer coming through." The flames caught quickly and soon a cheerful fire was crackling in the growing darkness. Everyone gathered around, finding seats on chairs or logs that had been arranged in a circle. Lisa watched as Kevin settled on a log between Bobby and Olivia, looking more relaxed and happy than she had seen him in years. It warmed her heart to see him fitting in so easily with this group. "Food's ready," Jane announced. "Come and get it." There was a happy rush toward the table laden with grilled burgers, hot dogs, salads, and snacks. Lisa found herself in line, behind Doug's wife Maria. "I've been meaning to thank you," Maria said quietly. Lisa looked at her, surprised. "Thank me? For what?" "For giving our kids a lesson in standing up for what's right," Maria explained. "Doug told me everything that happened at the graduation. Our son Jack has been talking about it all week, how his dad and the others stepped in when they saw someone being treated unfairly." Lisa hadn't considered this angle. "I should be thanking them. They turned what could have been a terrible day into something positive." Maria shook her head. "That's not how they see it. The guys all say they just did what anyone should do in that situation." She smiled. "Though Doug did mention he was impressed by your composure. Said a lot of people would have lost their cool in that situation." "Military training," Lisa said with a small laugh. "Helps you keep it together even when you want to scream." After everyone had filled their plates, they gathered back around the fire. The conversation flowed easily, jumping from topic to topic. The adults shared stories about their service experiences, the funny ones, the meaningful ones, carefully avoiding the darker memories that weren't suitable for a beach celebration. As the night grew darker and stars appeared overhead, Alan cleared his throat. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said, raising his soda can. "To our graduates. We're proud of you all." and to new friendships that remind us what service is really about. Everyone raised their drinks. Lisa caught Kevin's eye across the fire and saw him smile at her. In that moment, all the missed birthdays, all the school events she couldn't attend, all the nights she had lain awake missing him, they didn't disappear, but they felt worth it somehow. Later, as the fire burned lower and some of the younger siblings had fallen asleep in their parents' laps, Sam brought out a guitar. "Any requests?" he asked, strumming a few chords. "Do you know any Marvin Gaye?" Lisa asked. Sam grinned. "A woman of taste." He began playing "What's Going On," his voice surprisingly smooth as he sang the first verse. Others joined in for the chorus, their voices blending in the night air. Lisa found herself singing too, letting the music wash away the last of the tension she had carried for so long. During a break between songs, Lisa's phone buzzed. She checked it and felt her smile fade slightly. "Everything okay?" Greg asked, noticing her expression change. "Just a message from my commanding officer," Lisa said quietly. "There's a situation developing overseas. I might need to cut my leave short." Greg nodded, understanding without needing further explanation. This was the reality of Lisa's service. Always on call, always ready to go where needed. "Does Kevin know you might have to leave early?" he asked. "Not yet," Lisa replied. "I'll tell him tomorrow. No need to spoil tonight." As if sensing they were talking about him, Kevin looked over at his parents. Lisa gave him a reassuring smile, and he returned to his conversation with his new friends. Alan, who had overheard, moved to sit beside Lisa. "Duty calls?" he asked softly. Lisa nodded. "Possibly. I'll know more tomorrow." "If you need anything, if Kevin needs anything while you're gone, you have 5 families here ready to help," Alan said. "That's a promise." "Thank you," Lisa said, touched by the offer. "That means a lot." "It's what we do," Alan replied simply. "Not just on deployments, but here at home too. We look out for each other." The night continued with more music, stories, and laughter. As the fire burned down to embers, families began to pack up their things. Kevin helped fold chairs and clean up trash, working alongside his new friends as if they had known each other for years. On the drive home, Kevin was quiet, looking out the window at the passing streetlights. "Did you have fun?" Lisa asked. "Yeah," Kevin said. "It was great. Bobby and Olivia are cool. So are their parents." "I think so too." Kevin turned to look at her. "You know what I was thinking about tonight? How different things could have been if those guys hadn't stepped up at graduation." Lisa nodded. "It made all the difference." "I want to be like that," Kevin said thoughtfully. "The kind of person who notices when something's wrong and does something about it." Lisa felt a surge of pride. "You already are that kind of person, Kevin. I've always seen that in you." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kevin asked, "Mom, are you going to have to leave early? I saw you get a message that seemed important." Lisa sighed. She should have known Kevin would notice. "Maybe. I'll find out tomorrow, for sure." Instead of the disappointment she expected, Kevin nodded with understanding. "It's okay. I know it's your job, and it's important." "You're important too," Lisa said. "Never doubt that." "I don't," Kevin assured her. "And now I have all these new friends who get it, who understand what it's like to have a parent in the military." Lisa thought about what Alan had said about the 5 families being there for Kevin if needed. It eased something in her heart that had been tight for years, the worry about Kevin feeling isolated or unsupported during her absences. When they arrived home, Kevin hugged her tightly before heading to his room. "Love you, Mom." "Love you too, sweetheart," Lisa replied. Later, as Lisa sat on her porch looking up at the same stars that had shone over the beach bonfire, she reflected on the unexpected gifts that had come from what could have been a terrible day. New friendships, a support network, and most importantly, a powerful lesson for Kevin about standing up for what's right. Life as a military parent was never easy. The balancing act between duty to country and duty to family was constant and often painful. But tonight, Lisa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Whatever came tomorrow, whatever new deployment awaited, she and Kevin would be okay. Sometimes it took 5 strangers willing to take a stand to remind you that you were never really alone.